We're live. Woohoo! Welcome back. I'm Elemi from Yeyeobotanica. We're www.yeyeo. And I'm Elemi, the owner of Yeyeobotanica, and today we are doing a small talk on the ancestors and spirit guides, their personalities, some characteristics, things to learn about, things to know, maybe some misconceptions that we have to kind of clear them up, share some information with each other. I want to shout out, woohoo, my people in South Korea. Woohoo! Thank you so much for the great support. I love you guys. This has been fantastic. Sharing information with you, learning, growing with each other. And today is going to be wonderful. I want to hear your thoughts, want to share conversation with you, hear a little bit about your guides, your spirits, your relationship with spirit, and share some things I've learned along the way with you. Remember, if you enjoy this video or you enjoy this programming, give me a thumbs up. In the replay, definitely hit the bell if you want to be in the know and be notified for when I have put out new videos, new trainings, new information. In addition to sharing us with others, there's so many wonderful people who have shared our videos, shared our content with each other. We have families that deal with us, not just individuals. And I'm so grateful to all of you. I want to say a special thing today before we get started. We have made 100,000 subscribers in our YouTube channel. And this has just been so humbling for me to be able to share with you, to follow Spirit's instructions of doing this kind of work and sharing information. So I thank you all. I thank you all. Today I'm using my my earpiece because the last time it was just like a little all over the place. So today I have a little bit of help. I'm going to be showing you guys some things for guides, things that you can use with your guides. Talk a little bit about different types of guides, the 3 or 4 levels of guides. We're not going to have too long today. We want to try to keep this within, maybe a half an hour, or if it's just a juicy conversation, we'll keep going. But for those of you guys who are not able to take my live classes, we are planning to, and already started planning, I should say, we're going to be putting out the dates for some live mediumship classes in our area. I've done these over the years, and I feel like now it's time that we're all re-engaging with each other. This is good. I'm considering doing some of it as a Zoom class, but most of my classes, it's really important to be present because I'm a spiritual development teacher, as amongst so many other things that I do. And so being in person is really helpful, which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this live today, so that we can share and we can be with each other and learn with each other and so on. So I'm going to send out to all of you guys who are here with me. Big hug to all of you. Thank you so much for all of your support. So today we're going to talk about the personality of the spirit. For those of you guys who have not seen my video, types of spirit guides, I would encourage you to watch that. Because in that video, I talk about all the different levels, well, not all, but many of the different levels of spirit and how to look at spirit. Many times people put, oh boy, my incense is going everywhere. Maybe we'll put it over here or push it back. Thank you. So in that video, the types of guides, I talk a little bit about archangels, different levels of spirit. feel like I'm like in the spirit world with my incense going. I'm just going to move it for you guys. I talk a little bit about the different types of spirits, whether it be their archangels, ancestral spirits, spirit guides of assignment, and so on. So, and then we're going to take a couple questions. I'm going to see if I can answer a few of your questions along the way as we share together. So, first thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, I wanted to ask you guys this one little hot topic before we get in, because a few people, I've done some things on Sundays, and I'm thinking about doing a lot more. But because, you know, I'm not really a social media chick, and I'm like, oh, you know, so many people are doing so much stuff. There's so much information out there already. And you guys, whoever knows me knows I like unique, and we don't want to rehash what's already out there. So I thought about today doing maybe a talk on God. What is God? This idea of God, the source. And so please comment if that's something that you would actually participate on in listening to me chat a little bit about how I view the source and this idea of God and Olodumare and Insasi and Inzambi, the different words, different names of the source. We could talk about that a little bit more, not Insasi, Inzambi. So they're going to help me with some of your comments to tell me, yeah, we should talk about that, right? So the first thing that I wanted to talk about is this idea of spirit. What is spirit? And for people who take my trainings, I really kind of get into this idea of spirit versus energy. And I want to say that it's really important to make this distinction in your mind. The sun gives off energy, right? So we can be outside, no sunblock, and it's an hour, everybody has gotten a little bit burnt from the sun, right? But then we think about this idea of spirit. Now, if we're not talking about from a shamanistic or spiritual perspective, when we say that the sun has a name, the sun is the spirit of whatever, right? Right now, we're just making the distinctions between spirit and energy. So I gave an example using the sun. And so when we talk about spirit, they say the source is spirit. They say that we have a soul. And so that's the spirit of the person, right? When a person passes away, this intangible ejects itself out of the body, right? So spirit is intangible. We can feel spirit. We can communicate with spirit. We can commune with spirit, whether it be our own or spirit of something, right? So they say that very oftentimes it is said that anything that is human or anything that is of consciousness, a dog, a cat, an animal, that there's a spirit in there, right? This is why people, oh, my dog has this kind of personality, or my cat has this kind of personality, right? And people dress up their pets to look like their personality and all of this. There's a spirit in there, right? And in some circles, it is thought of that everything that is of the source has spirit, has some essence of divine consciousness within it. Someone wrote like this whole comment. I wish I could read it and concentrate at the same time. So there are even plants that have a spirit, that have spirit within them, right? For people who are into plant medicine, different types of plants have a different energy, a different spirit to it. Are you guys with me on this? Yes, if it's a thumbs up. That you're understanding, you're with me in what we're talking about. Because today, is a really special talk, and I'm doing this talk very specifically for my spirit guides and your spirit guides, and to celebrate this milestone of our subscribers. So we're going to talk about spirit from the perspective of consciousness, right? Something that has consciousness, that has the essence of understanding a personality, right? And a lot of times, I think that people kind of take this whole thing for granted when it comes to spirit. Today is going to be a part 1. So those of you guys that are on this, I'm telling you, this is part 1 of 2. And 2, you're going to love it. Oh my God, I'm going to love talking about 2, because that one takes today and peel the onion to some more juicy information, all right? So spirit, as it pertains to spirit guides and ancestors, we know they have consciousness. We know they have consciousness because they were a person. If we're talking, we're just focused on spirits that, we're going to talk about the different levels of spirits, but we're talking about spirits of consciousness. So spirits that have consciousness in this context either have a personality, a way of looking at things, experiences, and so on, right? Someone wrote candles. I'm like, okay. So spirit can have a mood, can bring a mood to an environment. They have a personality. They can be happy. They can be sad. They can be depressed. They can be dark. They can be light. They can be loving. They can be bitter. They can be sweet. All the ways. They can be very articulate. They can be very intelligent. They could be writers, musicians, artists. The list goes on and on of the personality and characteristics that a spirit could have. Anything that you have, they could have, right? Do you mind closing that for me? So, depending on the consciousness of the spirit can depend on how elevated they are, how helpful they are, or how not helpful they are, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about the levels of spirit. You know, spirits also, as we know, when we talk about helpful ancestors in the Bantu system, one of the systems that I'm initiated in, they talk a lot about this idea of the helpful ancestor. That ancestor that is one that comes to your aid, right? And so, you know, earlier today I was going, well, what word would you use? And maybe you guys could help me with this in the comments, because I'd love to find a good term for it. What would you call the ancestor or a spirit that's not helpful, that actually holds you back, right? Let's see if you guys have any suggestions about the name of a spirit, or what you would call that spirit that holds you back, that isn't helpful. Because our mind always goes through what's our benefit versus what can be the opposite of that. Does that say energetic leech?
Yes.
Oh, please write that down. I like that one. Let's write down a few of these. Energy vampire. We could even do a talk on that. Comment below. There are people who are energy vampires in person and online. Demons, okay. Energy vampire, demons. Stagnant, hater, evil, sapsucker, backward, okay. Stagnation spirit, toxic, karma spirit, okay. Restless spirit. I like restless spirit because restless spirit is term that is used quite a bit. I saw someone write shadow on the screen, and so also make a comment if you'd like me to talk about the shadow, because I did a video on the shadow, but I'm thinking that may be a really great tortured spirit. Annoyed. Oh, you guys are too much. Okay, so we've got here a few terms for spirits that are not helpful, right? Someone said demons. Intranquil is a word that is maybe the most, I'm going to put in quotes, correct word that is used a lot. And especially in many Spanish-speaking circles, the word espíritu intranquilo, like the intranquil spirit, is used quite a bit versus the tranquil spirit, who is calm, so to speak. So that's a good one. Stagnation spirit, restless spirit. I love you guys, bottom feeders. Lower level spirits, that is a perfect term that is also used, and we're going to use that term for as a part of our conversation today. We got energy vampire, energetic leech, unhelpful spirit, of course, spirit of hindrance, and aura dampener. Okay, so that's good. So it's good to keep this in mind, right? Because a lot of times when people think about ancestors and spirit guides, we automatically go to, what are they going to do for us? Are they around? Do they love us? Are they there all the time? Right? So, okay, I'm sorry. That distracted me. Someone was saying something about nightmares. What was that about nightmares? Because we did something on nightmares with lemons. Spiritual blocker. All right. So spirits, as we talked about before, can be helpful or be harmful. Spirit, and this is important because I read quite a few people, what I'm about to say, I want you guys to take this in for a minute. Spirit guides and ancestors can be of assignment. So they can be assigned to you from birth, right? But an ancestor is not necessarily a spirit guide. And there are a lot of people, I'll give you an example. People always say to me, oh, my grandmother passed away, and I want to know if she's one of my guides, if she's with me all the time. No, she's not with you all the time. She's not with you all the time for the mere fact that she's someone that you knew. So if she's someone that you knew, she can't be assigned to you from birth. Are you with me? Very important. Very, very important. Also, ancestors can be a part of your spiritual court. And are all of your ancestors a part of your spiritual court? No, they're not. And we can have a deeper class, deeper session offline from YouTube where we talk about how people get to be assigned as an ancestor as a part of your spiritual court. So we're talking about ancestors that really work with you versus ancestors that are just on the list of all the people in your bloodline, right? So that's a little bit more complicated. So spirit guides and ancestors come to complete, the ones that are assigned to us, come to complete a part of their own destiny or to complete something for themselves, or because they have a lot of more blessings, if you will, to give. So that assignment comes through some spiritual matrix And so people who are on the other side, you can have a bigger conversation with them as to how they got assigned. Some people who are really, really advanced, sometimes their guides will tell them how they got assigned to them. But for the sake of the conversation today, we're not going to kind of take it there. If not, we'll be here all night. So let's go on now to talk a little bit about some of, maybe just for 1 minute, some of the misconceptions that, or some of the conceptions, some of the thoughts that we think about our guides, right? So I'll give you an example for myself. I used to think, when I first got involved in the faith, that all guides were just people. I didn't know who these people were, but I just thought they were all people. And I was like, oh, they're just all people. But then I thought to myself, well, who are all these people? Where'd they come from? Right? And so as I went further and further and further, I learned about various levels of spirit. Spirit taught me a lot, which I'm very grateful for. But my misconception was, in the beginning, they're all nice. You know, everyone that passes away, they're here to just help you along the way. They're so good, you know. They're just all here to be loving, and they're all here to just help me out. And anything I ask them, you know, they're just going to be like, bam, I got you. Nope. That's not for all guides. So that goes back to what I'm going to share with you now. So I want to talk a little bit about a couple of the levels of spirit. And I'm going to talk from higher to lower. We're only going to talk about the levels that influence the average person. They're astral spirits. And in Spanish, they call them astros, or spirits that are in the astral realm. So I want you to think about it today. Astral realm, 1, 2, 3 more levels under that. So we're going to go through that quick and dirty. Astral realm, very, very elevated people. Star seeds, nice. Very, very elevated, who are guides of yours, but they do not talk in your ear, you know, necessarily make things move. They are very elevated, kind of looking down on your life. So they're not necessarily spirits that you're going to be feeling. You know, people say, oh, I got the chills, right? Celestials, perfect term, right? If I got the chills, I heard something, I dreamt something, this and that. Most of those spirits, now I invite all of you to go to your mentors if you have them, or people that you can kind of bounce some of my ideas on. What I have to say is not the only thing to say. This is just my perspective and things that I've learned along the way. But those spirits don't oftentimes, or if not most times, interact with people on a terrestrial level, because they're very, very elevated. And in that realm of elevation, they do not come to Earth. We're not talking about Orisha. We're not talking about in possession. The spirits that come in possession, we have a whole nother thing on that. Right now, we're talking about these guides that people have. After that level, we have elevated spirits. The spirits that they come to the altar. When you have your ancestral altar up, they're the ones that are around, that are the consumers, if you will, of the light, right? I want to know where you are, where you say good morning. because it's what time? It's almost 8 o'clock here. I love that. So these guides that come to the altar that that are elevated, they're the ones that are consuming the light. They're the ones that are really soaking up those prayers. They're the ones that are listening to that gospel music that you're playing, or those songs that you're singing, those beautiful things that you do for them and with them at the altar. They're the ones that are really like enjoying all of those benefits at the altar, right? The food, the tchotchkes, I call them the tchotchkes, right? All those nice, cute things that we have. When we make a special request, they're the ones that are helping to take action behind the scenes to make things come to pass, right? They are what we call the helpful ancestors, right? The ones that help to bring the family together, the one that helps to work out some of the issues in our life, right? The very, very instrumental spirits, and I like to call them very benevolent, the very benevolent spirits, right? That's how we get to interact with them. They're very religious. The ones that are very religious, we notice, oh, I want to play this music. I want to hear that music. I want to breathe this prayer. I want to do this, so on and so forth. They can have any personality that they had in life. I'm here to tell you, they still have that personality in moving on. So those spirits also, in my view, are the ones that also can influence us in the way we think, the way we act, what we dress, how we carry ourselves, right? What our interests are. What are some of our gifts, or how to bring out some of our gifts. They are extremely, extremely influential in our day-to-day life. And those are the spirits that are the helpful guides, the elevated spirits of light. We're not talking about astral, we're already past that one. On a day-to-day terrestrial level that are very influential. In a positive way. We're going to get into a little bit more in a few minutes about the ones that are not so helpful, right? Sorry, I'm just going through my little notes here. So I say that those ancestors and spirit guides also are the ones that are on their own journey, right? They're on their own journey in terms of if we're a part of their assignment and a part of something that they're here come back to complete. So we are a part of their journey as they are going on their journey as well. Sometimes it is that they reincarnate. If you believe in reincarnation, if you don't believe in reincarnation, this whole conversation is moot. Just hit the end exit button at this point, right? So if you believe in reincarnation, these people have come back, or they're working with us to complete some assignment. So if they do not reincarnate, they become a spirit guide. If they reincarnate, we can have another conversation about that. So some people who read, as an example, read tarot cards, read tea leaves, read coffee grinds, read affirmation cards, whatever it is that you do, if you're a diviner, right? We're not talking about diviner through ordination. We're just talking about you're a tarot card reader or whatever. And you're a person that you're good. Like, right? That's usually that the person has a guide that works within this system, that works within this context, that aligns with you to help to bolster that gift that you have, or that interest that you have, because sometimes people don't even know they have an interest in it. And one day they go, hey, someone gave me this thing of tarot cards, and I started playing with them in my house, and I started telling my friends, I started reading people and giving information and so on and so forth. And they're like, I didn't even know I was interested in this, right? Exactly. Some people will call them a gypsy guide. We can have a longer conversation on gypsies, right? Because many people have guides that gypsy is an archetype. So it's kind of like a catch-all term, because if we really study history, we know where gypsies come from. Not everybody comes from that area. But this is a guide that this is the realm and this is their thing, right? Just like a person can have a spirit guide and or ancestor that they cook. Someone can go in the kitchen. Everybody says there are no groceries in the house. And they come back and they have a full meal and nobody knows how they even did that, right? That's an example of a guide that is one, they cook, right? There are people who do hair and so on and so forth. You know, athletes, musicians, the list goes on and on and on. So the assumption oftentimes is the spirits who have passed on, I'm going to loop this back again, that they are always nice. They're always good. Well, you can have bitter spirits. You know, they're people who, if they were bitter in their life, they can be bitter as a spirit, right? If they weren't so nice in their life, they're spirits that are not so nice, right? Or they can be sour. They can get around people and make the person feel sour, feel grumpy, feel agitated, feel aggressive, and so on and so forth. Remember, we are spirit in a physical body. So the veil, if you will, from spirit and physical, it's very, very thin, right? They say that spirit travels in the air, right? So if spirit travels in the air, well, the last time I checked, I needed air, right? So this really goes to show how easy it is for them to interact with us and to influence us, right? Someone just made a comment earlier that said unattractive. Well, those are the lower level spirits, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Why? Because the ones that make you feel attractive, you know, you take your sweet baths and you put on your attraction stuff. You got your nice gear on, smelling good, looking good, right? You're like, yeah, I feel good. Sometimes those are guides that they work with certain colognes, work with certain scents that really amplifies us, right? So let's talk a little bit more. Well, let me pause here for a second. There weren't any questions. Yes. Because when I get to the other ones, we're going to be looking to kind of tighten up the live a little bit. So I want to answer one or two questions. You know, I want to even go as far, you know, I talked about music and the way that you carry yourself. I mean, anything. Wearing jewelry, don't wear jewelry. Wear short hair, don't wear short hair. Wear dreads, don't wear dreads. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? A lot of that is a reflection of guides that are with us, especially when we're talking also about your main guide of assignment. And a sidebar thing that I wanted to say before I go on to answering some of these questions is oftentimes you may have ancestors, great-grandfather, great-grandmother, cousin, great aunt, so on, that is with you, around you, but it is very, very small percentage of people that their main spirit guide is an ancestor. It's very, very small percentage of people who have that. And people who possess spirit who comes through them, and speak and work and clean people or do whatever they do, those are usually also a very small percentage of people that those spirits are ancestral spirits. Are these questions? Okay. You guys know I need help. The last one, we couldn't even figure out how to hit the end button. So thanks so much for just hanging out with me with this. How do you find out who your guides are? You need to find a really good medium, someone who's really good at identifying spirit and answering questions about spirit, interacting with spirit, talking with spirit, and so on, right? I forgot, do I say their name? Oh, okay. So, forever blessed. How do we block the useless spirits from messing with our plans and other stuff in our life? Well, I would have to say the first thing that we want to do is get rid of them. That's a great way to block them, you know. So there are always energies in the world. Always energies in the world. Those are people who are a little bit more sensitive. You could go somewhere and go, oh, I got the chills. Or I go somewhere for my empaths who are participating. You go somewhere and you're like, oh man, my stomach really hurts. I feel really sick. Or, you know, my leg feels like it's hurting. I don't really know why that's happening. There are different kinds of reactions that you as a spiritual person or a sensitive individual can feel from spirit. And so there are many things that can be done to get rid of, block, banish different types of spirits, right? From taking certain spiritual baths, from cording off your home, blocking out certain kinds of vibrations. But I would first say that you want to make sure that you actually have this problem, right? Because there are more good spirits out there than they are bad. There are more positive spirits and spirits of light than there are negative, right? And so you want to be clear, is there something messing with your plans, right? And if someone has told you that, then I would definitely implore you to go and get some help in how to remove that. Another one? Okay. Carla Brown, can you discuss Native American spirits? So I'm not really sure how much of a discussion we can have about that. I would think that that would maybe even be a whole nother session, right? But when we talk about characteristics or personality of the spirit, well, you may have ancestors or guides that they're into that. Right? They are American Indians by birth, or they're practitioners of that, right? I meet a lot of people, they have that American Indian, Caribbean Indian ancestry, and they're drawn to that, right? Those things that we're so drawn to. You know, I read someone the other day who said, I think it was New Zealand. No, it wasn't New Zealand. The Netherlands. She said, I went to the Netherlands and I was clear. That's where I wanted to be. I am 100% clear. That's where I wanted to be. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. That was definitely for this person a past life indicator, right? And if you guys want me to talk a little bit about how your past life affects your present life, comment below, because I'm looking for more live topics, my pretty people. So we're drawn to things through the influence of our guides, right? Through all of these different things. But American Indian spirit guides and ancestors, thumbs up, right? Definitely get into learning a little bit more, if you already don't, about your heritage, and definitely incorporate some of that in your life, even if it's just me listening to the music at times, going to a pipe ceremony, going to sweat or sweat lodge, something to taste, to have the essence a little bit, because that also, just doing that one thing will pull those guides into your frame and pull them closer to you, right? Michelle, can your spirit guide be an ancestor? Answered that already. I'm not really sure what point you got into the talk, but I said that you can have spirit guides and ancestors, and that ancestors are not normally spirit guides. And if you already know the ancestor when you were alive, they're not going to be a guide for you all the time. There'll be an ancestor that comes to check on you, see how you're doing, and so on, but they can't be a guide of assignment because you knew them before they passed away. Oh. Oh! I love this question. I haven't been able to look on the screen. If I look on the screen, you guys, I'm never going to be able to talk about anything because I love you. I want to read all of your comments. Love you. Love it. So this is my beehive says, is it a good idea to wear your ancestors' clothing? I want you to watch me so close. XXXXX. No, do not do that. So I'm going to tell you why. We're not talking about people who, I want to cover this just in case people don't hear me. Look on my shelf in my room. There's a blue wrapper. I'm sorry, guys, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the spirit. So I'm going to give you guys two examples. And, you know, I don't really know what's the max time for lives, but I'm definitely wanting to not bore you guys by, you know, too much of that. I'm going to give you two examples. Oh my God, they heard me. I love that. They're like, smoke your cigar, Elemi. Oh, she says you can never bore us. Okay. So they're on the second shelf in my room. They're like some blue wrappers, my emergency. So let's see. How do I explain? There are two examples I want to give about this wear the clothes thing. Yeah, that's fine. Can you light? I want to light this. Light this second, this one for me. Or yeah, those big ones are just too much. So I have my grandmother's nightgown, right? And I just love it because I go and I smell her and I smell her essence, and it's just so beautiful to me to have that and be able to share that with her. I think this needs. You do it, honey. So if you're a spiritual worker, we're going to just kind of use that as a catch-all term right now. If you're a spiritual worker and you have, let's say, an American Indian, an Indian, or some kind of guide that you work with, thank you, and the guide tells you, when you work with me, you carry that. If you guys watched my Make the Machete with Ogun, and that's something that you would definitely have that machete, blah, 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 right? And you would work with it. Don't tell anybody, you guys. Then you're calling the guide to work with you to push through, right? You're calling the guide, hey, let's work together. Let's do this thing together, so that you're getting more power from the spirit. But normally, Under normal circumstances, oh, my grandmother had this beautiful, or my auntie had this beautiful ring, or my mom had these beautiful earrings. I just want to wear them today because I love them. No. And the reason being is because when you have an altar, the spirit comes to see their things. They come to convene with you with their things. And there's almost like this pride that their things are there. So that belongs to them. The things you put on your altar belongs to them. Even if it was your favorite thing and you gave it to them, now it's theirs. It's not yours. All right? I'm going to give you another example. Spirit just got me going now. There's a young man, when he passed away being a heroin user. And he used heroin through a syringe. And he had a hat, favorite hat. And his mother had the hat in the house. But the son who passed away would not leave the house as a spirit. He was not elevating. I haven't even gotten to them yet, this is now my time to get to that. And so the little boy took the hat and adopted the hat. This is a sacred thing right here. This is sacred. But even if it was a jacket, because I've seen people wear the clothes of their parents, their loved ones, when they passed on. Energetically, it's not a good idea. Now, I'm not telling you across the board that people don't do this. People do whatever they want. I'm not here to tell you what to do in your life. I'm telling you this is not always a good idea, especially if a person has passed under poor circumstances. And also, if it was a favorite item of the spirit, it is advisable not to do that. So the little boy, when he became 14, 15 years old, people started saying, boy, you sure seem like, I'm going to call him Marvin for the sake of conversation. Maybe there's one of you guys who have a Marvin. Boy, you sure seem a lot like Marvin. You know, I remember when Marvin was that age, he started to do X, Y, and Z. Now, the little boy is being influenced by the spirit, when in all actuality, he may never have been influenced by the spirit, right? And then Marvin, remember I said, was a person who passed away from a drug overdose. So now he's a spirit that he is not elevating. He's not in the light. And now this little boy who's just coming up in his life is wearing this hat. That's an example of, no, you should not be wearing people who've passed on clothing. That's something that we as humans who are alive, we feel drawn to doing that. We miss them. We want to share with them and so on. That's why I hesitate about thrift shopping. No comment. Now, I just want to say a sidebar. I'm not here to judge thrift shopping, right? What I think is more important is if you're going to buy something in that way, you need to know how to clean it. You need to know how to remove the essence of the owner from it, right? And I want to say this to you, and I'm only saying this to you because I love all of you guys. Be careful with purchasing thrift shoes. So I'm not going to answer why. That's for later. And maybe I'll do a little talk on that at some other time. So We answered that. I'm going to answer one or two more. First, I'm going to talk a little bit before I get to answering any more questions. I'm going to talk a little bit about unelevated spirits, spirits that are not transforming. And that's a term I like to use a lot because when people pass away, they transform to these other realms. They transform to be more strong as spirits, to go on their journey. By them having more power, more energy, they're more influential in your own life, right? So people who are not transforming and who are not elevated, as I mentioned in the beginning, can influence us negatively, have us doing negative things, things that are destructive, things that are self-sabotaging. It can cause us loss in our life. For those of you guys who have not seen my generational curses video, you want to watch that, right? Because that's where you get to see a lot of influence of unelevated ancestors, unelevated spirits, and so on and so forth, how they impact people, right? Unelevated spirits can, or lower levels, well, lower level spirits, that term is kind of thrown around a little bit. Lower level, there's another level outside of the unelevated that we're talking about. So people who are not transforming, they're still very tied to this physical realm. They still want to go party. They still want to go drug. They still want to wear these clothes. They still want to hang out with because they're not transforming. They're not moving. So they've passed away, but they're still very tied and stuck to this realm, right? So as an example, saw another gentleman as a spirit. His mother came to see me. She wanted to check on him. He showed up, and he was very kind of scruffy, looked like he was living in the street as a spirit. He had his drugs with him. He had his vials with him. He had his needles with him. He had his liquor with him, and all of these different things. And he told me, I heard her prayers, because he wanted to give his mother a message. He says, but I'm still hanging out, right? I'm still hanging out. So that is a person who is not transforming to the light. They're still very tied to the physical realm. They're still tied to the earth, which is one of the reasons for those of you guys who have watched my live on the ancestral altar. I invite you to watch that. This is one of the reasons why people who have passed away through negative circumstances, suicide, overdoses, things that have been either self-inflicted or some chaotic things, accidents, so on, it's advisable to check before you put them on an altar, because if they're not transforming and they're really stuck on this realm, they're going to be holding on to you and living off of your life force energy a lot. So they hold you back. They live off of your life energy. They block your progress. They can be very helpful, and I want to say this for the unelevated spirits. They can be really helpful in doing black magic. They can be very helpful in helping you, let's say, only in your career, or only with your money, or only with something in particular, but then they block your love life. They block having children. They block interpersonal relationships. They isolate you. And that's one of the big things that they do. They isolate the person, where, you know, you're kind of like a little bit of a hermit. You go to work, you come home. You don't really socialize. You don't really do certain things, because these energies can be very, very possessive and very controlling. So I hope that you guys got like a good taste. We've been here for almost an hour together. I wanted to show you a few things that are great to use with your spirit guides. This is a tobacco cologne, great for spirit guides, great for money drawing and working with them. Some of you guys saw a couple videos I did with for the ancestors and making the ancestor cologne. This one's great for burning in your home for guides that enjoy cinnamon, coffee, tobacco. We have different types of candles in the store for that. This is an example of a madama. And people have seen my La Madama video, how to make her broom, how to service her. You see her in red and white, blue and white. She's here in yellow and white, and she's an archetype or a representation of a grandmother, of our older lady spirit guide, and so on, right? We also have a beautiful Ancestor Blend, which is a great blend of herbs that you can boil and take baths to pull the ancestors forward. I wanted to share something very sweet with you guys, which I really, really like, but it's not something that you would use every day, which is this cross candle that you would burn on your altar. So for people who have ancestors who have a background in Christianity, this is fantastic for a special request, for an anniversary when someone passes away. Oh, this is an anniversary of when this person passed. Beautiful. For making a special request as like a breakthrough, this is also a great candle to use, and maybe one day I'll do a little video on that. Comment below if you'd like that. And for my Indian person, here's a statue as an example, a small statue of an Indian, right? They come, you see them so many different ways, and these definitely are sometimes things that people have at their altar or within their spiritual space to call on those guides and to pull them forward. Many people have dream catchers, right? We may have a dream catcher, big ones, small ones, all different sizes. That's also good for Caribbean Indians, people who are from the Caribbean, people who have American Indian lineage, and so on. And we have a few books for people who are on their spiritual journey. In that video, I talk about some books to read for your guides and so on. And of course, we have like a little thing on our Instagram where we talk about, right, what kind of instruments to use for some of your guides, right? Different guides, some like the maraca, some people like the bell, some people like different things. You can use a cymbal, you can use whatever it is that you want, that you feel that that really resonate. There are different books that have all different kinds of prayers and prayers online. Someone just mentioned prayers. We're going to have a bigger thing on prayers in the future. But there's a book here by Allan Kardec. I would say this is one of the famous ones in the diaspora for people who are spiritual workers. Don't worry about the fact that this is a Christ on the front. Whether or not you deal with Christ as a person, it doesn't matter. If your ancestors do, you need to read prayers for them at times from either the Bible or the context of their spirituality. Sidebar, when the class comes out for the ancestral altar, it will not be a video, it will be a class. I'm going to get into talking with you guys a little bit more about how to service the ancestors in a way that will, and your spirit guides, that will make them be very impactful. In this book, though, there are prayers for the hardened spirits, spirits that are not elevated, spirits that are elevated, spirits of the home, of the door, and so on. So keep that in mind. So I've got a few to shout out before we get off. We've got California, Andy from California, Rachel from Jamaica. I've got one of my Crusians in the house. I grew up on St. Croix. We've got Betty from Trinidad, Sarah from Texas, Nana from Germany. I love you all. Thank you so much for participating. And I hope to see you. I hope to see you all on the next live. And I want you, please, give me a thumbs up, hit the bell for notifications to be on my exclusive YouTube channel list and to find out about when I have more videos, more lives, more opportunities to share with you all. I hope that this was helpful. It was nurturing, that you feel like, hey, I got something out of spending this time with her. I got something out of this time here learning about your own spirit guides, your own ancestors, please subscribe, share us with others. I love you all. Thank you for your support, and see you next time. Ashe, ashe, ashe.